Well, hello there and welcome. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you on EWTN Radio. On this Tuesday broadcast, I am Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. We have the show team in place today, and as always, we're so grateful for the gentlemen who help us put this show on the air every day. And today, that would be, let me see, there. Well, I'm looking for the show team. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Matt Kabinski is on the phones. Ace Charles is back. Charles Beery is our producer, and Michael McCall is on social media. Debbie, come in, clean up my mess. Okay.
They're closing. Now what do we do? And that's the topic today. So we do know that dioceses around the world actually are shrinking a bit or consolidating or something of that nature. Some are growing. You know, I know where I live in the Diocese of Phoenix, we seem to be really in a good place when it comes to the diocese expanding, because people are moving to Arizona, so we get a lot more Catholics, right? So when you have a lot more people filling the pews, the churches stay open. But churches are closing. Now what do we do? And this was suggested by one of our listeners, I believe. You can have two communities. You can have your original community, and you can also have a brand new community that you can join different ministries. And so if you look at it from the that you can work through. If you look at it like it's so depressing, it's going to be hard on your faith life. So let's talk about it. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
Yeah, it's one of those topics here that we have put out there, suggested by one of the Take Two family. We love it when you propose topics to us. 99% of the time, we put them on the show calendar, and that was the case with today's show. Have you experienced a parish closing or consolidation? 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. I know that this topic is going to generate a lot of listener comments and contributions. You can do so on the social media websites where we're streaming the video and waving to those of you on Facebook and YouTube. We want you to get your chats going right there. You can send your make them brief emails to Take Two. They can be as long as they want any other time, but during the show, commenting on the topic, make them rather brief at take2@ewtn.com, and the show website is take2show.com. But the number again, we love to hear your beautiful voice, 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
So churches are closing, and it can be a shock, and you're wondering what happens to the church building, what happens to all of the art and the statues and things that are in the church. You know, that's another topic that we can discuss. But if your diocese is shrinking a bit, please call us. Let's talk about it. How is everybody handling it? If your diocese is just booming, tell us. You know what's going on. Obviously, the ministries are active and people are participating. So we want to hear from you. You don't have to be Catholic to call in, because maybe the church that you go to, it's shrinking too. Maybe there's some things happening in the church that you belong to. Please call us and tell us how you're dealing with it. That's what we really want to know. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. But you got to fill those phone lines if we want to have a really robust discussion on this. Otherwise, Rye Marie is going to be disappointed, because they suggested the topic, and so we want to fill the phone lines.
We sure do, and the lines are usually full on this program because of you, the Take Two family. You always share your insights, your wisdom. You always have something beautiful and profound to share, your lived experiences, and we know that that is going to be the case today. And we do have clergy that listen to the program, so if there are any priests or pastors listening right now, and you have had to sort of oversee the closing of a parish, see that through the process, or maybe the combining of different parishes, parishes, or maybe you're a priest or a pastor and you've got still 2 or 3 parishes that are open, and you have to serve the ministry needs of all 2 or 3 or more of those. And some priests even mix in, holiday hospital chaplaincy and nursing homes and things like that. So, if you're a member of the clergy, we'd love to get your perspective on this. And also, the one thing that a lot of people do, they feel the pain because they have family history in a given parish that closes down or consolidates. And certain nationalities, Polish parishes, French parishes, Portuguese, different nationalities that have thrived maybe for years due to changing demographics, are now seeing a diminishment of attendance and maybe even a closing or a consolidation. So, folks, it's a reality. It's a fact of life sometimes. It doesn't have to say that it's easy, and we would love to know if you have been through it or you're experiencing anything like that. 833-288-EWTN is the number. Join those who are on the line right now. We'll get to your calls in a moment. 833-288-3986, talking about parish closings. Now, what do we do? How do you keep your faith life going strong as it always has been? That's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you today on EWTN.
Here's today's quote from Mother Angelica's Perpetual calendar. The essence of contemplation is to gaze upon the Lord. It's a gaze of the heart. Mother's spiral-bound Perpetual calendar features an inspirational message for each day of the year. It's available from the EWTN Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com. That's EWTNRC.com. Or you can call 1-800-854-6316.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
President Biden proposed dramatic changes to the U.S. Supreme Court. One is no presidential immunity for crimes committed in office. That's absurd. The court ruled presidents have immunity while conducting official business, and crimes are not official business. Biden also called for term limits and a code of conduct. But the heart of the matter is the court's overturn of Roe. The court has no credibility, they claim. But while the court was mostly liberals legislating from the bench, it had loads of credibility. It was only until justices who strictly interpret the Constitution and became a majority that it hit the fan. This is a political move to put liberals on our nation's highest court. Joe Biden's pandering to his base in a desperate attempt to prop up a dismal legacy.
Follow us on social media at Life Issues Institute.
Well, we thank you so much for listening and always for your wonderful participation in our daily conversations here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And you, don't forget the you part. You are the ones who drive the program at 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. Looking for those of you who have had any experience at all with a parish closing, a consolidation. These things do happen sometimes. They can create a lot of discomfort, a lot of unhappiness, or maybe a lot of joy. Coming together with people of different parishes and forming one parish out of maybe 2 or 3. So join us, 833-288-3986. And of course, EWTN offers a variety of prayers for all of your spiritual needs. In fact, you can get prayer anytime you want. You just simply find prayers at EWTN.com/pray. That's EWTN.com/pray. It could not be easier for you to get prayers for any intentions that you would like lifted up by the EWTN family.
Love it. That's wonderful. Rye Marie, if you are listening, you suggested this topic, so please feel free to call in 833-288-3986. We actually get the emails. We've received quite a few over the past, this past year, of folks saying that in their area, it's their diocese is shrinking, and they're pretty upset about it. And so we understand that. I mean, it can be quite shocking because you're so used to a habit, so used to a pattern of going to this parish. And like Jerry said, you may be attached to it culturally, you may be attached to it from your family. This was the parish that you were born and raised and baptized, and so it becomes part of your life. And then all of a sudden it's taken away. And when it's taken away, you're in that midst of going, well, what do I do now? Where am I going to find that parish community again? So let's talk talk about it. There's many ways you can do this. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. And Jerry, we'll go to Lisa, and Lisa is in Southern Illinois, listening on Covenant Radio. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to Take Two.
Hello.
Hi,
Go
Lisa.
right ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So we were affected several years ago. Hold on. Let me kill my noise. Our church was destroyed in a tornado, and a church nearby, maybe 60 miles away, was closing, and I think they were tearing the building down, and they gave us all their stained glass windows out of their church.
Wow.
To go in our brand new church. And it was truly a blessing. And so, we would have, after our church was rebuilt, members of that parish came several times. They would take group trips to come and see their windows in our church. So it was really a great thing they did, and we're blessed with their beautiful windows now.
Wow, fantastic.
Well, but think about that for a moment, Lisa. You know, the church was destroyed by a tornado, right? So when things like that happen, the community naturally just comes together and rises up and helps. Yeah, and helps one another, and it can be something that really, really touches people's hearts, connects people, and keeps them together. And so that turned out to be a beautiful thing, a demonstration of humanity in your area of folks coming together and supporting one another with the beautiful stained glass windows. But when a diocese starts to shrink, usually the way it happens is there's a letter that's put out to parishioners of all in the whole diocese or in a certain area, saying that by this time they're going to consolidate these parishes or cut these parishes or, sell off the land or do whatever. And it's really devastating. It has a different feel. But I will tell you, Lisa, I almost wish that people would have that same, I do wish that people would have that same kind of internal drive to just get creative and do what they need to do to keep the parishes alive. Any comments on that?
Well, our parish is a shrinking parish. We probably, right before that, like the night before the tornado, this was the leap year tornado that went through Southern Illinois and, killed several people and just destroyed a lot of buildings and homes. And they had decided that parishes were going to be closed, and we were consolidating and all this. So then when we lost our building, we had to figure out what they were going to do. And so it kind of slowed our process down, but, we've gone through this. I know other areas now are experiencing the same thing we've done probably 10 years ago or more. And the letters went out. We visited with the bishop and his councils and, trying to figure out ways to save and what to do. And it is a hard decision, but, when you sit in a church and not half the pews are filled, that also means that half the funds are not there anymore and that kind of stuff. So it's sad, but it's understandable.
Mm-hmm. It is both of those, Lisa, absolutely. And we have to remember that there is a business side to church.
Yes.
Debbie and I host a lot of on-air pledge drives, and when we go on the air, we say, folks, this is the business side of Catholic radio. The other side, the ministry side, everybody loves that and wants to just kind of do that 24/7, and for the most part, they do get to do that 24/7, but there come the times when they have to go on the air and ask for money to raise the bills. Well, similarly with a bishop, this is just one reason I would never want to be a bishop among thousands of others because of the responsibilities and duties that they have. But so we need to pray for our bishops. I think a lot of times people jump to conclusions and they think, well, he's going about this willy-nilly and kind of rashly and so forth. But I would say every single bishop who's facing this probably loses sleep at night.
Absolutely.
And knows and realizes, Debbie and Lisa, that his decisions, although he arrives at them very prayerfully, hopefully, and discerning, and with God and the Holy Spirit's help, they are still going to have an impact on a lot of people that will be painful for some. And so we need to pray for our bishops and our church leaders who have to oversee these sorts of things that we're talking about today.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Jerry and Lisa, because here's what's so important about that. The bishops, they want to be loved by all of us, and they're not going to win any popularity contest by sending out these letters, and saying that they're shrinking the diocese. And so that it is probably a very painful, I do know, I was part of one diocese that had to lower their budget and everything. And so it's tough. And you're right. We need to pray for our shepherds that, they can still maintain, for us to feel close to them, and they can feel like they are loved by all that they lead, and they're doing the right thing, and we trust in that. And we have to get creative and just build up the communities with Bible studies and all sorts of groups. I mean, there's ministries. The beautiful thing about ministry work is so much of it can take place even off campus. It doesn't have to be on campus, in many ways. Although if it involves children and safe environment and stuff like that, of course that should be under the supervision of the churches. But there's so many ways we can do this. So I just wanted to share that. Lisa, real quickly before we let you go, any final comments?
I agree with everything you're saying. I love your show. Been listening for 4 or 5 years now. I hate when I miss it, but I always learn something. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
Today you were the teacher, Lisa. Thank you for contributing to the conversation. Excuse me. We appreciate that very, very much. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986, talking about Catholic parishes closing, or even if you're not a Catholic, maybe you've experienced a closing of a church or something. And, Lisa made a great point there, Debbie, that, if there aren't people sitting in the pews, so the problem really is not just so much about, whether or not we have to open or close churches. The problem is where are the Catholics? There are plenty of them out there. There are plenty of Catholics in this country to fill every church that's ever been built, but they're not going to church, and we have to address really systemic, realities there.
Well, and Monsignor Charles Pope, he addressed this on a radio show just about a month ago, and he talked about that. He says we need to get people back into the pews, back involved in ministry, and not everybody came back after the COVID interruption. Not everybody came back, and that's a problem. And so we've got to get out there and spread the word that the church is open. Maybe especially if you have perpetual adoration, tell everyone, keep the Eucharistic Congress, the revival going in your parish, like keep it going. So that's so important. So we do have a couple open phone lines, Jerry, and the title of the show is Churches Are Closing, Now What Do We Do? So we're trying to come up with creative ideas. If you could help us, like Jerry said, to be the teacher, like Lisa was, call us, 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
All right, we're going to go to Jean, a first-time caller in Connecticut, listening on the Station of the Cross today. Hello, Jean. Welcome. What are your thoughts on this?
Hi. My topic is regarding today's show about churches closing. And I live in the quiet corner of Connecticut, and I recently returned to the church after being gone about a half a century, and found out that the priest I went to, he and one other priest are now in charge of 4 parishes there: Most Holy Trinity in Pomfret, St. Joseph Church in North Grosvenordale, and St. Mary Church of the Visitation in Putnam, and St. Stephen Church in Quinnebog. And I was blown away that 2 priests are now taking over those 4 parishes, but I was thrilled with the priest that I met that day. I told him why I had left the church, and he totally understood, because it was for many good reasons, actually. I had 5 little children at the time, and had learned from another priest that the clergy, there was, and this was 50 years ago, mind you, that there was a lot of molestations taking place, and a lot of the priests were gay. And I thought, God has put me in charge of these children's lives, right, and I cannot take any chances. So,
yeah, no, that was a very legitimate concern. Ultimately, was leaving the Catholic Church the right thing? Well, that's up to you and your conscience, between you and God. And you had a very, very serious concern there that was, I think you're right, the most important thing for you to do is to watch out for the safety of your family. I'm curious, Gene, about these 2 priests. Do you know if they share a rectory somewhere and kind of go out from there to these 4 parishes? Do they have any kind of live together, have fellowship together that you know of?
Not really. I think one of them lives at one of the parishes, and the other one lives at the other one. So I went to Mass this past Sunday and met the other priest and had a nice talk with him after Mass, and found out that he says I came into the world after the traditional Latin Mass went, so he really didn't have much knowledge of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just ask out of curiosity, because in any pastoral and ministry situation involving priests, fellowship, camaraderie, praying together, sharing meals together, recreating together, those kinds of things are very, very important. And if there are any priests listening right now, they're probably going, yeah, Jerry, where do we find that in today's ecclesiastical culture, with the shortage of priests and so forth? And we've got David coming on from Wichita in a minute, who's going to tell us about the high number of seminarians that they have. But Debbie, you and I both know, we have both known many, many priests before who don't get fed themselves with the basics that they need to sustain them, from a just a human standpoint, spiritual standpoint, from all of these things. And priests, they don't go. I'm Gene. I'm back in seminary formation, and I don't know if I get ordained in 3 or 4 years. I don't know what the landscape's going to be like for me. If I'll be in a rectory with 1 other priest or 2 other priests or no other priests, or I'll be running 2 parishes or whatever. Mm-hmm. Men don't get into this, Debbie, thinking, wow, I one day I might have this situation thrust upon me. It just sort of happens, right, and sometimes they're just not ready for it.
Right. Well, here's the good news with you, Jerry. You have a gigantic Take-Two family that's going to be praying for you and your priesthood. So that's the good news. And it goes back to prayer. And Gene, I have to tell you, it's interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking of my own pastor. My pastor is he has 2 mega parishes that he runs, 2 he's the pastor of, and every time I see him, I mean, he has such a great demeanor, great outlook. He really tries, you can tell he tries to keep a very balanced life, and I pray for him all the time. I do think we need to pray for these priests. This is a lot to ask of them, and we do need to give them that kind of support, so that they can sustain this ministry and help all of us, because they're helping us. So Gene, thank you so much. What an interesting story you have. You're a first-time caller, and I just think your story is fascinating. On an upcoming show, when we talk about our journey back into the Catholic faith, maybe you could call us back and tell us some details.
I have one more thing I want to add, if I could, please. It won't take that long. The Mass that I went to last Sunday, I was totally shocked, because I had gone when the TLM was still taking place, and so the whole thing was a shock. But the thing that really offended me, when it was time to take communion, there was a woman that was distributing communion, and she was dressed like a slob. I kid you not.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things that have to be enforced, in every parish, especially if you're going to be involved in ministry and especially distributing the holy body and blood of Christ. We have to look the part. We have to be well-dressed, well-groomed, and all of that. And Gene, I'm sorry you had that experience. Please don't let that be a deterrent in any way to you, because as you know, Gene, it is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus that you are receiving. This is Take 2 with Jerry. And thank you, Gene, for the call. Join us here. This conversation, our parishes are closing. Now what do we do? Today on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie and you.
The most original Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
You need courage to stand up and be Christian, and stand up and be a real Catholic, not a divided Catholic, not one who lives by half-truths or preaches lies. Follow the church. Follow the magisterium. You can't go wrong.
Mother Angelica Live Classics. Tonight, 8 Eastern on EWTN Television and Radio.
All your favorite EWTN programs are available right now on demand, day or night on Facebook. Watch on your computer or the Facebook app. EWTN is everywhere.
Hello, I'm Bishop David O'Connell, the Bishop of the Diocese of Trenton, and this is a Eucharistic moment. The 20th century Italian saint, mystic, and stigmatist, Saint Padre Pio, observed, "Every Holy Mass heard with devotion produces in our souls marvelous effects, abundant spiritual and material graces which we ourselves do not know. If we only knew how God regards this sacrifice, we would risk our lives to be present at a single Mass. As long as you receive Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament every morning, you must consider yourself extremely fortunate. The Mass is infinite, like Jesus. Renew your faith by attending Holy Mass. Keep your mind focused on the mystery that is unfolding before your eyes. In your mind's eye, transport yourself to Calvary and meditate on the victim who offers himself to divine justice, paying the price of your redemption."
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. Do you have questions about the Catholic faith? Get the answers on Call to Communion, coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Yep, it's true. Parishes are closing around the country, around the world. What do we do now? So that's the question we're asking. If you want to weigh in on this, please call in now, because we don't want to leave you on the line as the time runs out for this very quick show. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. And David, hold on, from Wichita, Kansas. I just want to share with our listeners, Jerry, if you're ready to turn around the State of the Union, the Reviving America Summit is just for you. Over 25 Christ-centered leaders reveal a 5-week roadmap for renewing faith, family, life, liberty, and leadership. It's now through August 30th with powerful sessions every day. Join David Barrett and thousands of online believers to really see and hear dynamic talks from people like, you're going to love this, Jerry, Dr. Ray Garendi, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, Father John Ricardo, and so many more. So this is really awesome, you guys. And this is happening right now. And guess what, Jerry? It's absolutely free. Sign up now at revivingamericasummit.com.
Awesome. Very good. All right, David, we're going to get to you in Wichita. I just wanted to mention that call screener Matt Gabensky gave a comment to us here a moment ago, and I just want to scroll to that. He said, a big problem is that no one is tithing. Those who would are on fixed incomes, and those with jobs don't tithe. He says Bishop Chaput talks about that a lot and said that by the year 2035, people will be tithing 1/6 of what they were tithing very recently. So that's certainly something that needs to be taught and really understood by us, those of us who sit in the pews, the need for us to really give to God. Jesus says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but give to God what is God's. And the churches cannot operate without us tithing and being good stewards with the funds that God gives us. So, All right, we're going to get over to David. Thanks for holding patiently, sir, in Wichita, Kansas, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, David.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
I come from a different type of diocese. We probably have 32 seminarians. Saturday, I attended the final vows of a nun, IHM sister. We're growing. You know why? I think the number one reason is perpetual adoration.
Well, you don't have to convince us, David. I'm a big believer in perpetual adoration. I believe that if we had more parishes working towards perpetual adoration. We did shows on it, Jerry, and it's been proven. We know that people have, the feedback has come in pretty strong on this, that perpetual adoration bears great fruit in the parish. The parish community thrives. Many blessings, because if we're willing to put that effort in to be with our Lord round the clock, 24/7, and it's such a great demonstration of faith and connection to the Lord, the blessings are going to flow and the graces are there. To me, it's so obvious. I've seen it when I've worked at parishes that have perpetual adoration versus parishes that only have very limited times for adoration. What do you say, Jer?
Well, Jesus does say in Scripture, David, you know this, he says, pray the Lord of the harvest to send laborers into the harvest. And one of the ways, the most beautiful way that we can pray is by adoring, by adoration, David, as you're talking about. David, I'm also curious, I've heard in the past that there's an arrangement in your diocese to where Catholic schools are free for students who want to go there. Am I right or wrong on that, David?
You're right on that.
Okay.
And it's another awesome element of our diocese.
Yeah. And explain for us real briefly how that is made possible, because we were just talking about, tithing and being good stewards, not only of our money, but of our time. So there have to be some things required of parents for them to get that free education for their kids.
Yes, stewardship is required.
Okay.
And volunteers. If I call together a group of people to work on the church grounds, a lot of people show up. A lot of people. And I go to daily mass quite frequently, and the number of people in daily mass is very large, very large.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a beautiful diocese. I mean, we've heard about the diocese for many years, and I heard about it, David, because when Bishop Olmsted was our bishop for many years here in Phoenix, came from your diocese, and we heard all about the stewardship program. Archbishop Naumann has been on our show. We love him. I mean, you have so many great people in your area that are willing to step up together and work together to build the Catholic life. I think it's beautiful. I've seen it many times. I get to host Catholic Radio Network's pledge drives, and so a lot of calls come in from your area, David. So people are very engaged. You're very blessed where you live.
Yeah. My purpose of the call is to encourage everybody to step up, to do more.
That is great. Well received, David. Thank you, brother. God bless you for bringing this to our attention here. If we had a Wichita in every diocese, and there are a lot of other dioceses where great things like this are going on. So, David, thank you for reminding us of that, and God bless you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Debbie, the suggester of the topic, has called in.
I know. We asked Marie to call in, and she did. We're so glad. From Buffalo, New York, on the Station of the Cross. Marie, thank you so much for suggesting this. It's a very popular topic.
Thank you so much. I was just driving, and I heard you say, Marie, call in. I was like, oh, my gosh, I have to call. I didn't even know you guys were talking about this today.
Yeah.
It's, you know what, it's hard. I'm in Buffalo, New York, and it's very hard because they're closing 34% of our parishes. My parish in particular, it has nothing to do with the pews not being filled. Every mass is full. The parking lot is full. My church is financially independent. They don't take any money from the diocese. And we were still one of the churches scheduled to close because they had the best property. And I think they could get more money for it if they sold it. This sex abuse scandal has killed this area. And I don't know if that's all of New York State, but it's frustrating because I kind of feel like everyone has just buried their heads in the sand. And this is as good as it gets. We're going to close. Even though people are going to church, we're going to close. But I haven't seen anything on the other side of the spectrum as far as I was in marketing as far as recruiting and priests talking about it and fundraisers and bring a friend to church and let's grow the church. And I see all these things happening in other states where there's these huge revivals going on, and I just don't see anything in my area. And I think there's I've seen people crying and severely depressed knowing that their church is closing. And I just feel like we all feel helpless. We feel like there's absolutely nothing we can do. So I don't have a question per se. I just had a comment that I just feel I'm disheartened. I'm very disheartened. I know there's Catholics here that want to go to church. I know there's people who want to see the church grow. But we're kind of at the mercy of the priests and the bishops because I'm not seeing like a counter action plan to all the bad press that we've received.
Mm. Yeah, well, that part of it is unfortunate. What is the suggested solution for you, Ryan Marie, and people in your parish? Are they steering you to another parish nearby, or what exactly is going to happen to all of those people that you said the church is full, the parking lot's full? Where do you foresee these people are going to be going? Do they know that yet for masses and other ministries?
Other church, which is about 5 miles away, and that church is packed at every Mass, too. So now people are concerned where are we going to park? There's no room for us. So it just doesn't really make any sense at this point. And we also have rotating priests. I know the priests are exhausted. They're covering a large territory. I went to one Mass where the priest didn't even show up, and the whole Mass was done by the deacon. So we're kind of in dire straits here. And like I said, we just feel really helpless. Like nobody's coming up to lead us. No one's showing us the way. We're just kind of subjected to this is what's going to happen and just accept it.
Well, I mean, if it were me and I was in that situation, and another thing too, I just wanted to share, for many years, Jerry and I hosted the pledge drives in your area, right, Marie? And so we know folks from Buffalo very well, and you guys are awesome. You love your faith, you're strong, you're resilient, and you're going to get through this. But I do believe if I was in your position and I lived in Buffalo, New York, what I would do is I would form small communities, what they call like those front porch communities where people get together and really keep the faith alive through fellowship, through gathering together, through scripture, through music, Christian music. I mean, really group together in small ways and let it expand from there organically. I know that in some areas when there have been closings, to pay off things and to pay off lawsuits and all sorts of things, people have done that. They've done just that. They've found ways to stay together, and it is a smaller, tighter community, but you guys can sustain one another in that. And I wish it could go bigger than that, because I agree with you. You do need a sense of revival and leadership, and a sense of like, okay, we've got a direction, we've got a plan. And I just would encourage you to continue to reach out to people, because I do believe that if everybody's thrown into one big mega parish, you can feel lost, especially when you've had your community and your habit and your routine at your parish. Now you have to start over, and you can feel like it's a little bit being thrown out into the ocean. Any comments on that, Jerry?
Well, I think your advice is really very good. I just wanted to make a quick clarity here. You were suggesting maybe those small groups not as an alternative to going to Mass.
No, just for Bible studies. Yes, yeah, not an alternative to go to Mass. Absolutely. Thank you, Jerry, for stating that. Yeah. But the front porch communities like to just keep up and continue on with your faith and your fellowship. And so not in any type of replacement. Yes, thank you. What do you say to that, right, Marie?
I think that's a great idea, and I do think it's important to get the message out too. I've heard people, there's people that go to church every day, and I've heard them say, "My church is closing. I'm not going to church anymore."
Yeah,
so I do feel that it's important to get the message out that even though your church is closed, watching it on TV is not going to satisfy that requirement, especially if there is a church a few miles away. So I was really surprised by how many people I heard say they're not going to church anymore. They're just going to watch it on TV.
Well, but Ryan Marie, that's why I brought that up at the beginning of the show. That's exactly what we've been hearing from the feedback from Take Two family members around the country. They said, well, we're done. We'll just watch it online. And that's why I was suggesting that if we can keep up the formation and support one another and encourage one another to go to Mass, and then they can continue their formation and their journey and feel the the support of a parish community, maybe at a dinner, at a meal, at a potluck, something of that nature, you can if everybody goes into their homes and shuts their doors and shuts their garage doors and just does, their own church at home, that's not going to be a healthy community. So I'm right with you on that, Marie, and I know, Jerry, you would agree with that, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And come at it from a positive angle. These can't be groups that come together and, it's all always, just focusing on the negative and the disappointment and the difficulty. Yeah, it's got to be, what can we do to augment what we've been moved over to another parish. There are some challenges. There are growing pains here. But what do we do to supplement that?
That's
to
right.
make sure that we don't fall into that group of people who say, I'm not going to go to church anymore. Because we must go to church. Mm-hmm. Every bishop, every priest, we are all human beings. We have important decisions to make. That's why I said earlier on the show, pray for our bishops and our leaders who have to make these decisions. There are going to be a lot of disappointment, but they have to make the hard decisions, and we don't. So, Marie, thank you for suggesting this topic. As you can hear from the calls, Marie, it has been a very impactful conversation so far.
Thank you so much for having it. And I think, now more than ever in the world that we're in right now, more people do need to pray. More people need to go to church than ever before. So thank you so much for bringing up this topic. I really appreciate it. And please keep our diocese in your prayers.
Absolutely, we will.
Definitely.
We can promise you. Absolutely. I put you all in the book. Okay, so.
All right, thank you, Marie. This afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, open line. Father Wade Menezes has the answers to your call-in questions here at EWTN Radio. Open line airs 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and on Tuesdays, it's Father Wade right here on EWTN.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones. Andy in Seattle, Washington, listening on Sirius XM 130. You're up next. Welcome to the program. Hi, Andy.
Oh, hi. Yes, my name is Andy Tassani. I live in just north of Seattle, and as of July 1st, they implemented a program called Partners in the Gospel, where parishes throughout the whole archdiocese were formed into what they called families, and many priests were reassigned. Some had their designation as pastor changed to parochial vicar if someone else was going to be the pastor of that family. So it's caused a lot of angst, you might say, in our whole archdiocese. But that aside, because I think we've heard from many other callers around the same, have said the same thing. But what I would say is I'm a member of the Sarah Club. Sarah International is an international organization formed through our patron saint, St. Junipero Serra, to assist priests and seminarians in praying for vocations. It's so important that we work with our vocation directors and our priests in identifying programs that allow our youth to be exposed to and to heed that call that may be in their heart from God to become a seminarian, to discern about the priesthood. There was a priest in our area called Father Bill Watson, who wrote many, many books about the sacred story, which was based upon a Ignatian spirituality. But he has a new program called True Heart, and I wish that program, which is a discernment program for young men discerning the priesthood, it's a 10-week program where priests actually identify young people who might, be eligible or might be interested in a vocation, and they're invited to spend a 10-week program, one night a week for 10 weeks, followed by a follow-up where they really study and discern about the priesthood. And we also do other things called Quo Vadis Days, where we invite young people to go away for 3-4 days and discern. So whatever we can do to help young people, especially our youth, to discern, to encourage them and their families in the church, to consider the priesthood, to consider for the women a consecrated life, and really work with the priests and the vocation directors to identify young people. We've seen amazing things. Let me tell you this. When you get to meet a seminarian and you get to understand who they are, where they came from, what their background is, and you kind of walk with them through their seminary life, it'll change your life. You look at them completely different. There won't be just a picture on a wall with a name, but there'll be somebody that you can relate to. And if by God's grace, they become ordained, you kind of feel like you were walking along with them. So anything that we can do to encourage vocations, working with our spiritual directors, with our vocation directors, and our priests, and using programs that pretty much are already in place, I think would be very, very helpful.
Well, I tell you what, Andy, we've got about 7 minutes left in the show. Would you just keep talking? Because everything you're saying is so edifying to me. Debbie and I are looking and nodding at each other, and everything you've shared is so right on. And the nugget that you said is, the discernment of a call, getting these young people, both boys and girls, into groups of their peers, exposing them to priesthood and religious life, because God is not calling any fewer men or women to priesthood or religious life today than he has been. Because a lot of people say, well, there's a priest shortage, God just isn't calling men and women. No, that God creates everyone for a specific purpose, and so he is still calling them. We just have to get them in front of the people and the resources and just the great information of what a vocation is about. And I am on the Archdiocese of Seattle's website, the program True Heart, 10 Weeks to Christ. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Andy. I'm going to look more into that, because I think Debbie, it looks like a fascinating opportunity.
Yeah.
And you mentioned some other programs, and Sarah Club, and there are initiatives and movements out there. We just need to get involved in them and get behind them and support them.
Yeah, you started with Partner in the Gospel, having these families come together. These are the creative efforts we're talking about, Andy. We're so glad that you called in. Thank you so much, because you probably helped thousands of people today in their diocese, and they want theirs to thrive too. So that was beautiful. Thank you so very much. Call us again for sure. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
God bless you. Wow, that was a great call. We got a lot of, this is what we wanted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as someone born on the feast of St. Junipero Serra, of course, I was born before it was his feast day, but it is now his feast day, and it was the Feast of the Precious Blood when I was born on July 1st, so now it's Junipero Serra. Okay, we got time to get Violet in New York, who is listening today on Alexa. Violet, you'll probably be our last caller, so you get to bring the show to a close. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Sure. Go right ahead.
So the question that was asked, I guess, at the beginning was, the churches are closing. Now what do we do? And we heard wonderful suggestions about prayer and encouraging vocations. And I would just like to present the thought that, from my experience at least, it would be really to our best benefit to keep our elementary Catholic schools, our high school Catholic schools, our Catholic colleges, all thriving, because that's where our future Catholics are coming from. The people who are going to, be the future of our church. Mm-hmm. And from my own experience, I saw my elementary Catholic school close, and that school happened to be a great feeder school to my Catholic high school. And when the elementary school closed, the Catholic school started to suffer because many elementary schools were closing, and that Catholic high school then closed. Right. And that was a big tragedy, because that high school was an all-girls high school, wonderful experience for young women. Many wonderful bonds formed with future families from these women staying in the community and living in the local parishes. Not only that, the Catholic high school was part of a campus that had a college and a beautiful chapel and other things, a school for children who had disabilities and so on. When the Catholic high school closed, they demolished the chapel without even trying to salvage much of what was in it. And it was all done precipitously. Within a few months in the spring, the notice was given to the high school, we are closing you. The principal didn't even know. And so all this stuff is going on that needs to perhaps be addressed and changed in some way. We have to pray for the decision makers at the bishop level, probably, right, and have communication and let them know how important these things are to the survival of our Catholic churches. And then lastly, we have to hold on to the buildings, because if we remember when the immigrants came to this country, the first thing they did with their hard labor, they built beautiful churches. Mm-hmm. And now I go to a town, I went to Peoria, to other places, and I see restaurants and beautiful church buildings. And I think if we could just hold on to them, even if we just maintain them, even if they're kind of closed, quote unquote, but hold on to it till the time when the church is stronger and the communities are stronger and can afford it, and maybe the buildings will still be there, and we could go and use them, because we need the buildings. We need not only the community of people, but that building is so important. The structure is so important to the Catholics who go.
Yeah, and it's sacred. And it's sacred. You absolutely, Violet. Let me just share a couple things. Thank you for being our final caller to finish this discussion. And I'm so grateful to God and to you that you brought up Catholic education. I worked at a parish for 25 years. I can tell you that 3 of the parishes had schools attached to it. If the parish community and the surrounding community doesn't support that Catholic school, oftentimes that Catholic school can be a drain on the parish, and that is it, and it's really unfortunate. So I would just encourage folks, please, if there's a Catholic school in your area, you want to keep it going, like Violet said, and how important it is. I believe in it. I'm a product of Catholic education. I believe in it. Please, when they have fundraisers, when they do events, you don't have to have kids in the school to go to it. You can support it. So support that Catholic school in that area to keep it going so it doesn't become a drain on the parish. Would you agree with that real quickly, Violet?
100%. And the lady who called earlier, who started the topic, who said our parish was thriving and our school, the same with our parish. It's even in cases where the parish schools are thriving and don't need any help or don't need any fundraising, we have to make it known to the bishops that the church has to have a school in that place. And if the school is not thriving, then we have to help it, just like you said.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Even from adjacent parishes, if we could help a school that's in another parish of ours, even if it's not in our parish.
Yeah, team up together. Absolutely. What do you say, Jer?
Well, what I say is the parish where I've been this past year, Violet, as a seminarian doing an internship year, the Basilica of St. Paul in Daytona Beach, Florida, they have a school that is thriving. They have a record enrollment coming in this fall. And there is the Diocese of Orlando has a program where all of the neighboring dioceses actually have to tithe to the school. Oh. It's a small percentage, but they have to help contribute. They have students going to that. If they don't have a school, but they have students going to a different school, then they are all kind of helping each other out in a very, very beautiful way. So there are ways to make this all happen. Violet, thank you. You hear the music. We are done for today, but Debbie, it's unscripted tomorrow, so anyone who didn't get through today or anything you want to talk about, almost, you can get on the show tomorrow.
Yeah, for the final day of July. So we expect you to bring all the topics to the table tomorrow. And Jerry, this was a wonderful show today. Thank you, Rai Marie, for suggesting it. Keep the suggestions coming, you guys. We love the show team. We love all the affiliates that carry the show. Thank you. And the Take Two family, you are awesome. So please pray for us. We pray for you. See you tomorrow.
Do you have some major decisions to make in your life? Are you feeling lost and alone? Not sure